Good morning, it's September 20th. It's a lovely but very fallish morning. It was 3 degrees when I got up. It's currently about 5. And it's Monday, so that means just to walk along the creek. I'll keep it fairly short, probably maybe only about 45 minutes today. And it's election day in Canada. I suppose my sentiments are best summed up by no matter who you vote for, the government always gets in. Oop, who's that? Hello, Tim in Toronto. We voted early. We voted last weekend, so our duty has been done. Tonight we'll just wait and see as the results come in. Looking a lot more like fall every time now. Trees are starting to drop their leaves. They haven't just changed color. We haven't quite frosted, but again, it was only 3 this morning with a wind chill of -1. Of course, wind chill's not real temperature, but still chilly. I'm going a little different route to get up on the dike to start with. Here I'm going to go down Angus Boulevard to the first access point to the dike. And I'm going to do kind of a figure 8, I think, today. So we'll take the south side of the dike and the creek along the path right by the water, and then loop around and do a bit of a figure 8 to come back on the other side of the creek. That's the plan. I finished the editing job I had over the weekend, so now I am doing the finalization of the text for the Shapers of Worlds Volume 2 Anthology. I finished my proofreading pass yesterday as well. All the authors have had a chance to look at the page proofs and make any changes, corrections they saw. So I'm plugging all those in today, and then I'll have the final manuscript, and it's straight on to publication with a few things along the way, like finishing the cover art. I mean, the front cover is done, but I have to do the back cover, the spine, and all that stuff. You can already pre-order the book on Amazon and other online bookstores. And there's even a handy link. If you go to books2, numeral 2, books2read.com/Shapers of Worlds 2, and again, numeral 2. It'll take you to a place where providing links to various online bookstores where you can pre-order the ebook. You can't pre-order the print book yet, and on Amazon you can't even set that up until very close to publication. But once I've got it into Ingram Spark, the print-on-demand service I use, I believe it'll show up as a pre-order even on print in some bookstores anyway. Okay, we'll go up the wheelchair ramp here onto the dike. You can see it's a lovely morning, very sunny. Has that fall nip to the air for sure now. I should say I have a project coming up that'll keep me off the streets for a week or so. So if I quit showing up live here for a few days, that's why. But I'll be back. That won't be, I think, till next week, but it's coming. There's the creek. There's the unstable internet connection warning that I sometimes get along here. Didn't last long this time. As it gets nippier in the morning, maybe less likely to run into people on the path. They haven't been frosted, but they're not looking at their best. Everything's getting old, flower-wise, tree-wise. Morning, Peter. I'm good. Hope you're good too. Another beautiful day here in Regina. The breeze is a little cool. I am wearing a sweater. And I even went so far as to put on long pants. So here's the one I normally come up if I just come straight down from our house. I had to come up those steps, but I added a little bit because I know this is going to be a less than an hour walk today. Water's still green though. Colder air hasn't killed off the algae yet. I always wondered what happened to the top of that tree. There's the footbridge, but we're not going across it. I'm walking along the creek, which is what I always do on Mondays. It's kind of a tradition. Fridays I go around the lake. Mondays I walk along the creek. So this is the Wascana Creek, and this is the flood control dike, High Kirk in Vancouver. Way back in the 70s, the creek flooded. This dike wasn't here, and the water went a long way that way before the rising land stopped it. So I think that's when they built this dike. And the election is on, as I said off the top. We voted last weekend, so we don't have any stress today, except to see how it turns out. And like I said, no matter who you vote for, the government always gets in. Then you just have to live with it. As I say, I think it was Churchill that said it, democracy is the worst form of government except for all the others. The bridge could use a lick of paint. More than a lick. We're not going over it right now though, we're going to stay along the dike here. Glad I wore the sweater. I'll warm up as I continue to walk, but it was nippy this morning a bit. It's the alley behind what used to be my house when I lived over there. There's a tree that's gone quite lovely. This is what they call the bowl. It's part of the flood control system, but it's also a very popular tobogganing spot when the snow comes. And you'll see kids here with toboggans all the time. Water's quite still, making a nice reflection over there. I hear voices on the other side of the creek. Well, I hope they're on the other side of the creek and I'm not just hearing voices. There's a nice bit of reflection. Let's pause for reflection. Oh, here comes somebody. First people I've run into this morning. And no dog with them. It's people with dogs. First thing in the morning. Sometimes I go down those stairs, but not right now. Morning. Your train in the distance. I don't know if that came through the mic or not. I was pleased yesterday. I was up on, well, really this dike, only further along, on the other side of the Louvain. And the wind was quite strong, but strong enough that it was catching the back of the camera, the phone, and blowing it around, like turning it off center. But when I listened, I was pleased to find that the new microphone had still made my voice quite clear despite the wind, which was kind of the goal of having a lapel mic to begin with. If you just choose the one on the camera, on the phone, it picks up the wind noise really badly. There's other problems with the sound as well. On the negative side, you can hear me breathing. Perhaps I should wear a Darth Vader mask. Although people already look at me funny when I'm walking along with this. I suspect the Darth Vader outfit would attract more attention. On the other hand, I'd be masked, so they would know who I was. It'd be hot in the summer. In the winter, I'm sure it would ice up on the inside, so not practical. It's interesting. You can certainly see where the wind catches the water there, because it's like a mirror almost down here, and as soon as you get to the bend, it's all ripply. That's Elphinstone over there we're headed to, and the bridge, Elphinstone Street Bridge. Oh, there comes somebody else. Still no dog. I'm surprised. I've gone down that path sometimes too, but not today. If I'm lucky, by the end of the day, I'll have that manuscript cleaned up and ready to finalize, which would be very cool. Kickstarter backers get it first. Oh, she does have a dog. Spoke too soon. He was down in the weeds. Morning. So my plan is to jaywalk across here and walk on the dirt path that runs right along the creek as opposed to the paved path that meanders. Go down to Pasco, and then coming back through the park, we'll take the paved path and cross the other footbridge a little further up. But first I have to jaywalk. It's not usually too much of a problem here. Walkwell Civic Arts Center is over there, but we're not going past it today exactly. I'll go down here. Watch my footing a little bit. It's actually easier to walk off of the sort of dirt path that's been there. I see I tripped even as I said that. Well, in some places it is. There's the creek. As you can see, it is extremely green still. Still algae-ish. Soon it will be frozen. That'll solve the problem. That's the Neil Balkwell Civic Arts Center over there, the low building. Yeah, here I think I'll go in the grass. Of course, right here, this is a piece of art. And there's another piece down there with a cutout in it. So if you line them up from the other end, you look through the cutout at the piece that has been cut out, which is sitting over here. Walking in the grass is going to get my feet really wet. So maybe I do have to stick to the dirt, even though it's a little precarious. Just have to keep casting my eyes down periodically. She rolled her eyes at me. I picked them up and rolled them right back. Stephen Laycock. He mounted his horse and rode furiously off in all directions. Classic bit of Canadian humor. I don't remember what the actual name of the piece was. Shoe's feeling a little loose. I hope I don't have to stop and tie it. These are new shoes, and new shoelaces grip better, but over time they seem to get more slippery, and then I have to double tie them. I didn't double tie this morning. We'll see. Might have to put this down somewhere, which is always a bit awkward on the cinematography front. There's the footbridge, which we will cross over when we come back on the homeward leg of this figure eight. Neil Balkwell Center. There's a ball diamond there. Playground. There's the footbridge in all its glory, such as it is. Might be a thumbnail. On we go. We're just ignoring this for now, sticking to the dirt. Wider over here, more of a proper path as opposed to just something was worn through the grass. That reminds me of an old Scottish joke. What is worn under the kilt? Nothing's worn under the kilt. It's all in perfect operating condition. Ba-dum-bum. Ooh, that's kind of pretty. Oh, and there's some ducks there too, just to complete the imagery. There's my head, or the shadow of it anyway. That way, it's getting some nice color in those trees as well. Starting to. Again, we are well past our first frost, typical first frost date. Once it frosts, the trees really get serious about losing leaves. Get right down to the creek here. Now we'll join the path proper. That's crunching noises as I walk. I kind of like crunching noises as I walk. You can tell how fast I'm walking, which is not as fast as I would walk if I were not streaming and recording. So I'm walking more because of doing this, which was kind of the goal, but I'm certainly not walking as fast as I did when I was doing it just for exercise. But as I said, you can already hear me breathing, and you wouldn't want me going that would be annoying. Last year at this time, as I've mentioned before, I was jogging along here, about this same path, more or less, which was fine, and I was pleased with myself for being able to do it, but I was less pleased with myself when my knees started acting up, and I realized my jogging days were not only gone, they never existed. I was never a jogger, which is probably why, in general, my knees are in quite good shape and don't bother me, but they did when I did jogging. So, especially I have flat feet, so congenitally flat feet, they've always been flat. So I'm missing a certain amount of sprawling in my step. All right, we're not going down there today. Get up here onto Pasco Street. Well, on the sidewalk, not going on the street itself. Again, the black and yellow building over there is Sask Express. a well, they go some geese. They, have dance and musical theater classes for kids, and they also do create performing groups that tour, or have in the past. Typically every summer there's a Saskatchewan Express group that it's typically like older teenagers that tours the province and performs at fairs and things like that. And clearly they have a polling place in there today. The vote signs are a dead giveaway. They're even coordinated with the building, which is, most polling places can't say that. The geese haven't really left yet, but they're thinking about it. They're working their way up to it. This time of year, they're largely fattening themselves up out in farmers' fields. And they take these practice flights. That's what I think of them as. I doubt that's what they really are. Oh, that sun is bright. Can't see a thing on the screen. Lights up the trees nicely, though. Backlighting, very dramatic. Spared no expense on the lighting here. Here, see? Special effects galore. The sun glinting through the leaves of the trees. Like a big sparkly diamond. Technically a giant nuclear fusion reactor, but sparkly diamond works. Okay, now we're going to take the path. Looks to me like my phone is now all confused about which way I want it to park. All right, now we're going to create this figure eight I've been talking about. This will take us along the paved path back to the first footbridge. They're mowing grass. You can smell it right along here. Well, you can't, but I can. Oh, the shade is appreciated because the sun is very bright. Funny that. It's no brighter than it usually is, but a little bit of red popping into some of the bushes. The gimbal's still trying to point at the sky. More geese going overhead. I'll try to point at them because they're hard to see in the sun. Yeah, you can take a shortcut that way, but I'm not trying to shorten it that much, so. At this point, I'm warm enough, I'd probably be fine without the little bit of sweater I'm wearing. It's always difficult. You start out cold, but you warm up, and then you wish you just put up with the cold to begin with. You'd be more comfortable later on. It seems to be, based on today, about 5 degrees. As long as the sun's out, I could come out in short sleeves and be fine after I'd walked 20 minutes or so anyway. And you won't freeze to death at 5 degrees. Well, not quickly anyway. I suppose you could have hypothermia, but not while you're walking. Eat, eat, eat. The woman I passed back there was wearing a mask, walking all by herself outside. I always wonder what the thought process is that leads to that. Guess it makes you feel better. Here's the footbridge. Lots of geese overhead. Sort of in small groups though, not a big migration flock yet. Just these little groups of 5 or 6 at a time, you'll see. Okay, first footbridge. We do the traditional looking both ways. So, looking to the east, sorry, to the west. I always get those mixed up. And looking into the sun to the east. It's very bright. Now we're really heading home. And all this path that I walk on is part of the Trans-Canada Trail. If you were walking from coast to coast, you would follow this path through Regina. Don't know what he's waiting for. Some red popping out on that hedge over there. Now we're on the north. Now we're on the south side of the creek. We were on the north side. Now we're on the south side. Sullen teenager on the way to school. It's a classic. On the creek, see Sheldon Williams Collegiate is over there. I've walked by it a few times. So I do sometimes run into high school students along here, headed that way. cannot see the screen at the moment, so. Back to Elphinstone here, and we'll go along the north side of the creek. South side of the creek. Good grief. I do know my directions, but it's funny how if I don't think about them, I often flip them. And it's even happened in my writing. More, but again, the sun was too bright to bother trying to catch the geese as they went over. It's quite warm in the sun. Definitely don't need the sweater now. It's almost like anything over freezing, I could probably come out without a sweater as long as the sun's shining. Once we get below freezing, I have to start dressing a little warmer. For sure. For sure. What's that? Regina is a much quieter city than Toronto. Yes, it is. Well, there's more houses in Toronto than there are in Regina because there's more people, but there's a bigger downtown, so you don't have to walk very far from downtown to be walking through residential areas. And also, I mostly walk in residential areas. I've walked downtown several times and will again in the warehouse district. Someday this week, I'll go over to the part of the warehouse district that's east of Broad. I've been in the part that's west of Broad. I've walked up and down South Albert. And I'll do that again sometime. It wasn't too bad. There are sidewalks there, unlike some places. Oh, somebody's in the bushes there with their dog. You can walk right down there in the bushes, but this time of the day, the grass is probably really wet. And there was another dog. Dogs always need walking, so they'll be out no matter what time of year it is. Oh, somebody else there. E.T., hi. From OK Valley. You know, there's a Paradise Valley in Alberta. That's better than just OK. I knew somebody from Paradise Valley. OK Valley, O-K-V-A-L-L-E-Y, OK Valley. Yeah, see, it fits just like Oklahoma. They should totally sing that at their local gatherings. It could be with apologies to Rogers and Hammerstein, it could be the town song, right up until the Rogers and Hammerstein organization closed them down for using it, but oh, that makes more sense. My brother lives in Kelowna. Well, that's a shame. I don't think Okanagan fits. O-K-A-N-A-G-A-N. You're short a letter. Okanagan, where the wine comes rolling down the hills. Doesn't fit. Okay, A-N-A-G-A-N. You need one more letter. I guess OK Valley didn't fit either. I just made it fit. OK, V-A-L-L-E-Y. It should be O-K-L-A-H-O-M. Wait a minute. I have to sing the whole song to figure it out. Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the plain in the rain. Oh, Oklahoma. Every night my honey lamb and I sit alone and spark, watch a hawk, making lazy circles in the sky. You know we belong to the land, and the land we belong to is grand. So when we say, yo, I started that way too high. Yip-I-O-I-A. We're only saying, we're doing fine, Oklahoma, or you're doing fine. Oklahoma, Oklahoma, O-K-L-A-H-O-M-A. So it'd be, okay, I'm lowering it now, okay, A-N-A-G-A-N, Okanagan. It does fit. It fits perfectly. Okay, V-A. OK Valley didn't fit, but Okanagan fits perfectly. As long as you leave off the valley part. Honk, honk. Where is Sweetgrass? What? Sweet Creek located? I don't know. Not a name I'm familiar with. Okay, well, clearly the Okanagan Visitors Bureau should be using that song. Okanagan. Where the wineries wave upon the hills. And the tourists' feet can sure smell sweet. No, that doesn't work. Okanagan, O-K-A-N-A-G-A-N. Yeah, fits perfectly. Thank you for that. Now I'll be working out the lyrics to the song for the rest of the day, probably. It's stuck in my head. There's the footbridge we are now headed to. No. It's a short, sweet creek walk. The sweet refers to the walk, not to the creek. Maybe I needed another comma. Not really, grammatically, but I can see how the confusion arises in a YouTube title. No, it's Wascana Creek, same as always. It's just a short, sweet walk along Wascana Creek. I apologize for the confusion. Okay. Time for another look at Wascana Creek, which is not Sweet Creek. Looking to the east, looking to the west. Nice, cool breeze. There is a place called Sweetgrass. I think there's a place called Sweetgrass. Sweetgrass is something that's burned in indigenous ceremonies. There's definitely a town called Yellowgrass, because I've been there. It's not far from Weyburn. When you're driving from Weyburn to Regina, it's, let's see, McTaggart, very small. Yellowgrass, somewhat larger. Main thing I remember about it from Weyburn Review days was, well, McTaggart I remember because the brother that now lives in Kelowna used to live in McTaggart. Yellowgrass, there was a case in the 80s where the The teenage son of the Yellowgrass police chief was arrested for using his father's police car and stopping people on the highway. If I remember the details, it was something like that. Turns out that's illegal. Hi, Miriam in India. I'm going up this way today because the trees are pretty. You can see the leaves drifting down. Then after Yellowgrass comes I used to know them all. Midway Point is Milestone. Oh dear. Has been a long time since I made the trip, but you wouldn't think I'd forget. I made it so many times. Albright's the other direction. And Mydale are between Weyburn and Estevan. There should be one between Yellowgrass and Davidson. There's got to be something. Oh well. One thing about driving in rural Saskatchewan is there's always something roughly every 8 miles, because that's how far elevators were built. Basically, so farmers in the surrounding region could always get to an elevator in one day's trip. There's some new ones along here. Quite a few new ones on this piece of street. But a lot of them died as things changed, because a lot of the rural elevators are gone. And if they had no other reason for existence, these pretty row houses here. Ow! If they had no other reason for existence, then they didn't survive. And there's lots of places that used to be towns and are now nothing more than a couple of houses, maybe. Saw something really kind of, well, it was interesting and depressing yesterday. We've been watching a show on Amazon Prime hosted by James May. James May, probably best known for being one of the hosts of the Grand Tour, and before that, Top Gear. But he's got other stuff. And this one, he toured Japan for 6 episodes, which is very interesting. Right, Sweetgrass, Montana. I knew that. Sweetgrass, plenty wood. This is a nice house. But there's southernmost islands in Japan are depopulating. Much of the rural Japan is depopulating because they're not having enough children to replace the population. And the young people that are coming along are mostly moving to the cities. So there's a village in one of these islands, tiny village. Only 27 people still live there. But of course it has lots of buildings and everything. And there's an artist who has made scarecrows, stuffed full-size figures, representing the residents who have left, and in some cases fictional characters and things like that. So you drive into the town, and at first glance you think there are people around. But when you look more closely, you realize it's actually scarecrows. Or giant rag dolls, really. And it's a little bit like you've wandered into a Doctor Who episode, is what it looks like. Some aliens have turned all the people into rag dolls. But the landscape is just spectacular, and almost nobody lives there anymore. good for, you know, local wildlife. It's still kind of sad and a little creepy. But there are lots of towns in Saskatchewan that have emptied out over the years like that. Generally, though, they don't leave stuff behind too much. The old places are just gone, like Cannington Manor. Nothing but pits where various buildings used to be, with one or two exceptions. All right, here's my traditional stopping point, so I will stop traditionally. Oh, it did go 50 minutes, not as short as I thought. I have to change the title for the recording. Thanks for walking with me. I'll be back tomorrow. Bye for now.